Hi everybody, this is the third and final video about this 20-mark essay looking at whether a recession is inevitable in the UK. And as we've said already, this is an old style question where they're asking you to use the data that you've been given to answer the question. Your real exam won't be like this. You won't be referring to data when you're doing your essay question. However, it's good practice, for example, for the 15-mark questions where you will be needing to refer to data. Remember that everything needs to be based in theory, and if it's a question which is about the data, particularly like this one where they refer you to a specific line, then you must make sure that the majority of your points are based in the data and based in theory. So the last point that we want to look at here is the evaluation and the judgment, the other side of the argument saying that a recession is not inevitable. One point that we raised from the data was about the fact that consumption is going up still. Well, we're assuming that because unemployment's continuing to drop and also investment's going up. These are reasons which would cause aggregate demand, ceteris paribus, to go up, and that would be causing an increase in output rather than a decrease, not leading to a recession. The other thing which counters potentially going into a recession is this section here at the end. It says that the government are trying to tackle the problem of low productivity in the UK. So the government are doing things to improve our productivity. If our productivity gets better, then our cost per unit will be lower, which will mean that the price of our goods decreases, and then that will mean that our goods will become more competitive internationally. So hopefully we'll be able to have more export-led growth, and that would try and avert a recession. They've said here they're going to, that this would require, if they want to help these sectors facing difficulty, it would require relaxing the planning system to promote more house building. So this would be one thing, if we have more house building, and that will promote, arguably, economic growth because it will provide jobs, more people will be buying houses. And the downside, though, of this is that they're going to be relaxing planning. So you could argue that if they do relax planning, then we will have more houses built, this will increase output, and it will reduce the likelihood of a recession. However, you can then say that even if they did relax planning, that would have negative impact. So even if it did avert a recession or delay the time that a recession would arrive, it would actually have negative consequences because it might allow people to build houses in areas which previously, for example, were protected as areas of natural beauty, just as an example. The other one, it says they're going to the removal of burdens on UK manufacturers, such as carbon taxes. So this is suggesting that perhaps by reducing the amount of carbon taxes that firms have to pay, that would have been something introduced to help to improve the environment. If they took away those carbon taxes or reduced them, that would lower costs for UK manufacturers. If they have lower costs, then their products become more competitive internationally. Again, you can then evaluate that evaluation by saying that that could be bad for the environment. So whilst it might avert a recession and mean a recession isn't inevitable, it might mean that in the long term our economic growth is unsustainable if we're using up a lot of natural resources which are non-renewable. And it also might mean that our quality of life is impacted because of increased pollution. The other things they suggest are getting shale gas exploration going, because that would mean that we'd have more energy available and that would increase our productive potential, and that would give us potential economic growth and hopefully reduce the likelihood of having a recession. The last one they talk about is reforming apprenticeships to rapidly improve skills in construction, manufacturing and technology. The idea of all of this is that this would increase the quality of our goods and it would increase productivity. If we increase the quality of the skills of the workforce, that will actually increase our productive potential and it will increase long-run aggregate supply. But also this has the second positive effect of meaning that our qualities are probably going to be better, our goods are probably going to be better quality, so they'll be more demanded abroad. And also, if our skills are higher in our labour force, then output per worker per time period, labour productivity will go up, and that would cause our cost per unit to go down, and we would become more internationally competitive. And these are all things which would help with export-led growth, and those things might mean that a recession is not inevitable. But again, you can evaluate that evaluation by saying how long does reforming the apprenticeships take, and also what will be the quality of the apprenticeships when they are put in place in their new form, and how effective will that be at improving quality and also at improving productivity, and what will the time lag be? How long does it take to train people? Then you need to make sure at the end that you are, as we said here, you're including a judgment. You need to say overall whether you think that a recession is inevitable in the UK. And for this, you might go down the road of saying this point here, that essentially we usually see a trade cycle, and it's extremely difficult for the government to prevent particularly external shocks, things that they have no control over, happening in the world. So, for example, you could say that if other economies around the world see a downturn and see recession, there will be less demand for our exports, and that if the demand for our exports, goods and services, drops off, that might mean, together with any slight decrease in consumption, that aggregate demand does actually fall. That's just an example of a conclusion. But you must make sure that you have an overall judgment at the end, which isn't just repeating every point that you've made, but it's coming up with one main reason why you think that the recession is inevitable or not, and giving some justification for that main reason or couple of main reasons. And that is the end of the essay.